Good morning， 欢迎您莅临参与网络治理研讨会，打造开放、公平与信赖的数位未来。本场会议现在正式开始。首先，我们邀请 NII 执行长陈文生先生为我们开场，有请陈执行长。
各位朋友，大家早安。去年的7月份在这个地方有办理那个亚太网络治理论坛去年的同一个大概7月份左右了。去年的亚太网络治理论坛其实是由交通部主办那办理的非常成功。今年的6月份，在台大的集思会中心有办那个台湾网络治理论坛也是办理的非常成功所以其实在过去1年里面我们国人大概对网络治理相关的议题已经逐渐关心了也很多的注意各位知道这个网络治理是一个过程由政府还有民间部门跟公民社群，然后等于是因为去年其实最夯的一个名字就是 multi stakeholder 多方利害关系人的这个模式彼此之间的合作尝试解决一些网络相关的问题了我这边大概举例子，就是说日内瓦的外交基金会有把网络治理的议题分成几类从电信基础设施开始，到网络安全，还有到数位经济，然后到数位落差跟网络能力建构跟社会文化多元化的发展，还有甚至到这个数位人权所以我这边要特别提醒的就是说网络治理相关的议题其实涉及到很多的跨部会还有跨产业、跨组织的多方利害关系人彼此互相合作我觉得怎么样子在彼此交流合作，然后更多的参与很重要了另外就是有更多的这个透明过程很透明很重要所以有几个 criteria 是非常重要的，包括像怎么样子你要更有负责任就参与的过程里面你要负责任，然后能够有这个更多的包容，一起讨论这个相关的议题所以怎么样落实这个网络治理的推展是非常重要的我们现在国家正在推动数位经济发展其实这个网络治理是数位经济发展里面很重要的一环所以因为去年在交通部的支持之下主办这个亚太网络治理论坛，1年多以来其实是算引起大家很多的讨论了。今年其实在 NCC 的指导跟支持之下办理今天这个研讨会我们也期待我们的网络治理论坛的这个工作能够更为落实因为今天这个只是一个座谈会的方式那今天的主题其实范围都很大我们也谢谢各位亲近的参与了那今天这个活动其实是NCC 指导办理这个活动那 NCC 目前是我们国内推动网络治理等于是最重视的单位了那我们接下来就欢迎我们NCC 的詹主委来跟我们致开幕致辞了那詹主委其实是4点钟才刚刚下飞机今天早上，所以他就赶来这个地方的致辞那也是非常谢谢詹主委的对这个网络治理的这个重视跟支持我们等一下听詹主委支持，他应该可以给我们很多的这个未来的这个想法或怎么样。我们是不是热烈掌声欢迎詹主委来给我们欢迎？谢谢詹主委。
好，谢谢哦。我们今天的这个主办单位哦，就是我们 NII 产业协进会的陈文生 Vincent 执行长，还有我们今天的这个那个专题演讲的贵宾哦，我们这个 APNIC 的这个那个总裁哦，我们这个Paul Wilson， 还有我们第2场专题演讲的这个贵宾哦，我们前 ICANN 的董事，也是我们吴国维资深顾问，大家在场应该都很熟悉哦。还有在座各位今天共同出席我们这个网络治理论坛的这个产官学研各界的朋友，还有社群以及公民团体，还有现场的媒体女士先生们，大家早。好。很高兴哦，我其实是5点半才下飞机哦，然后刚刚赶快回家梳洗一下，应该看起来还算有一点精神哦。这个其实我到美国去访问，跟 Audrey 一起访问 FB 哦，其实为的也是这个题目哦，就是怎么样有一个更能够给我们带来这个网络社会的这个品质以及安全哦 ，online safety 的这样的一个议题哦，所以有一个美国行程的访问。那么我们今天这个议题哦，如同刚刚这个陈执行长提到的，那大家可以看得非常清楚哦。我们今天要讨论的这个议题，就是要怎么样打造一个开放、公平跟信赖的这个数位未来。那我想，其实没有错，就是说网络治理的议题，其实在台湾过去几年以来，一直都有非常多的人在关心，但是大概那个力量还没有扩散。那从去年开始哦，我们正式有开始来。当然也是因为我们主办了这个APNIC 相关的活动，然后 APNIC 相关的活动，然后另外还有我们台湾也开始这个 IGF 就是网络治理论坛，也慢慢的聚集了更多的人一起来关心。那一直到今年哦，我们也正式主办了这个台湾的这个网络治理论坛，同时刚好9月的7号到14号的期间，我们 APNIC 也在台中哦举办相关的会议。所以我想在这样的一波资讯科技所带动的这个技术的发展一日千里的情况之下，怎么样能够让我们这个宽频社会建制继续往前，能够提供更有品质、更安全，然后更值得信赖的这个网络的这个社会，来带动数位经济的发展，同时又要能够对于一些基本的权利，要能够有所保护。所以这个议题已经是各界非常非常关心的议题。那我们可以看到，就是说这个在这个联合国今年底也是要举办这个网络治理的这个 IGF 哦。那今年大会的主题哦，我刚刚特别看了一下，它是这个塑造我们的这个数位未来哦，就是 Shape Your Digital Future。那刚好跟我前阵子看完的那本书，我想大家应该有看过那个 KK 的那本书，它的那个题目就是这个 Understanding the 12 Technological Forces That Will Shape Our Future。其实大家在思考的跟在关心的议题，其实都非常的相近哦。那也不容讳言，这些议题其实都还在发展当中，同时它也是有非常大的挑战，因为如同刚刚我们陈执行长提到的，接下来我们会面对到的问题，其实都是跨国界的，好，然后是这个跨产业的，同时如果以政府部会来说的话，又是跨部会的。好，那又这非常深刻的影响到我们每个人的生活，所以在这个过程当中，我们怎么样透过一个好的机制、好的方法，能够让我们共同可以在一个平台上面去做讨论，研议适当的解决方案，或者是掌握能够给我们带来的机会。我想这样的一个 mechanism 就是我们这个网络治理最重要的这个核心的精神哦。那 NCC 在过去大家也都很了解，我们就是在最主要的这个 broadband society， 就是宽频社会的这个推动协同业者一起来做这个宽频社会的推动者。那台湾其实在宽频社会的这个建制跟 infrastructure 的这个表现，不管是从过去的固网哈，然后现在有线电视即将迈向全面数位化，以及大家最称道的就是我们这个行动的这个通讯的这个上网哦，我们事实上这个 penetration rate 在全世界来讲，这个 ranking 其实都非常高。可是有了这样的一个 broadband 的 society， 接下来的这个应用跟服务，以及它对于我们的生活以及产业所带来的冲击，事实上是不小的。 但是我们有这样的一个冲击，我们要怎么样把它转化成一个机会哦？这个就是我们现在要大家一起来共同的探讨。所以 NCC 在这个过程当中，当然我们不希望就把这个宽频的社会建制，然后之后下一步要做什么，我们当然会非常关心怎么样去结合其他的部会，一起共同来讨论我们所面对到的产业的议题，我们生活形态的问题，我们基本权利的保护。那今天这个议题3项都是 NCC 接下来会非常关心的哦。我刚好也借这个机会跟大家介绍一下。那在这里面最主要就是说，除了早上2场比较这个重要的这个专题演讲哦，包括我们这个Paul Wilson 他要给我们带来的是这个 Supporting a Sustainable Internet Ecosystem。那下午有早上1场，还有下午2场的这个专题的研讨哦，我自己个人认为是非常重要。首先第1场就是我们要怎么样打造一个开放的互联网络哦，这个就是网络分裂的挑战。那在这里面，其实我们可以看到，就是说，因为各种科技技术的进步，我们可以发现这个有一些因为政府的政策或者一些商业的行为，其实我们可以看到这个所谓的这个网络分裂的疑虑正在逐步的升高哦。那在这里面当然也有国家的行为，那同时也有企业的行为。那在这个过程当中，包括这个data localization 啊，资料在地化，或者是像这个 IPv6 的推动啊等等，那这些相关的，不管是技术上的障碍，或者是政策上的障碍，那这些相关的，其实慢慢在让这个网络形成某种程度的这个分裂化。那在这个过程当中，我们怎么样去依然能够维持这样的一个开放的网络的环境，这是一个蛮大的挑战。那我想在很多国际贸易的谈判上面哦，这个 data localization 也是一个非常重要的议题哦。那所以这个第一个项目，我相信大家应该在这里哦，怎么样去维持一个开放性，同时又有基本权利的维护，这是一个相当重要的议题。那今天的这个专题讨论的这个第2场是这个打造公平的网络市场哦，垄断寡占的挑战。我想大家如果关心网络的话，应该都会知道。就是说全球这个不管是这个大型的网络平台，包括我刚刚才去访问的这个 FB 哦，就是说这个 Apple 啊、Amazon 等等这些相关的这个大的公司哦，就是说其实它不管是市值还有它的业务已经到各个不同的层面，那相当程度的影响了很多的商业的行为，以及我们个人的很多的行为。那在国际间也出现，就是说像这样子的一个大型的平台，它怎么样能够提供一个公平的环境，要避免这个垄断哦？那包括我们看到欧盟有一些作为，还有一些其他的立法的可能性也都在探讨。那我想这个议题我们也特别邀请了这个公平交易委员会。因为这里面会牵涉到我们刚刚谈到跟网络治理有关的议题，其实是跨部会的哦。那所以这个议题其实我们应该共同来讨论，怎么样能够避免这样的一个寡断垄断的这个挑战。那第3个议题是有关这个打造信赖的网络环境，这个又是一个更大的议题，因为我们知道，就是说宽频的社会，然后所有在这个宽频的网络上流动的是什么？就是 data 哦，甚至经济的形态也有人说是所谓的 data economy。那在这个 data 做这么多的传输的时候，对于国家的安全资料的安全、资料的开放，还有个人资料的保护，还有隐私等等，这些错综复杂的议题，其实都是非常值得我们要进一步的去探讨哦，而且这里面牵涉到非常多的是甚至是基本人权的维护哦，所以我想这个问题确实引发各界的关注，那也有不同的社群跟公民的团体也非常关心这个议题，所以我想我们今天除了2场的主题演讲以及下午的这个以及这个3场的专题的讨论，我们都是直接来面对这个议题啊，大家在一个共同的平台上面运用这个治理的精神大家一起来探讨。那很多事情现阶段它不一定会有答案，但是只要我们共同来讨论，我们一定就能够逐步的形成共识，同时必要的时候再把它作为一个立法或者是政策一个很好的这个参考的依据。所以我想NCC 很高兴有机会能够主办这个活动，同时在我们 NII 的陈执行长以及他的工作团队的协助之下，那邀请到大家来出席今天的活动。那希望大家在今天都能够有很丰硕的收获，同时这个问题不会今天就 就结束哦。我们之后一定还是要继续的保持联系，多方的讨论，然后共同为我们一起来打造这个开放、公平跟值得信赖的一个数位未来。那很高兴再次代表代表 NCC 来欢迎大家。好，谢谢，希望大家今天都有丰富的收获，谢谢。
谢谢詹主委致辞，请詹主委留步。我们现在邀请贵宾上台合照。Paul, please join us for a group photo on the stage. Thank you.
现在这就变这么高了，这就变那么低。好。
可以请在场的来宾给予台上贵宾一点掌声吗？谢谢。Big smile. Thank you. Thank you. With our applause. 谢谢，谢谢。
再上去又太高，真的只有这么。
接下来我们将邀请Mr. Paul Wilson 发表专题演说。Ladies and gentlemen, please join us to welcome the Director General of APNIC, Mr. Paul Wilson, to address. Good morning, sir. Please. 请给予掌声，谢谢。
谢谢，大家好。I'm afraid that's about my only Mandarin. So I'm sorry I need to speak to you in English this morning. But maybe next time I'll improve my language skills. I hope my Australian accent is not too difficult. It's really a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much to NCC for the invitation. Thank you very much to you all for being here. The IGF is a very important event worldwide as a global movement, and so it started more than 10 years ago with annual global meetings, and it's being followed these days by many events which are happening at a regional level, like in the Asia Pacific, and at the national level, like this one. So it's fantastic to see such a full room here, because I really do think this is an important event and an important movement for everyone in Taiwan. So thanks again. Last month I was at a conference where I had an opportunity to speak about internet governance, and I really started with a fairly personal story. A story about ecosystems and the internet as an ecosystem, because I think that analogy has a lot to tell us about the health of the internet, the sustainability of the internet, and also what it takes to build a healthy and sustainable internet. So this story might not seem to be very much about the internet at first, at least, but it really is. So please bear with me. In my work for APNIC, I travel quite a lot, and people ask me if I get any time off, and fortunately I do. And they ask me what I do with it. So I'm lucky to have time off from time to time, and when I have time off, I do what Australians do, which is go bush. And that is, I spend time outside of the city, in the countryside, or in the bush, as we call it. And that's been a passion of mine since I was quite young. But about 15 years ago, I was very lucky to be able to buy a bush block. That is a smallish block of land in the bush, small by Australian standards, about 40 hectares. And it's a beautiful place. It's very natural. In the hills, about 2 hours from where I live. Fairly natural, I say, because actually this land, like most of the country, has been fairly heavily exploited over the years. Since many decades ago, most of the trees have been cleared. Most species of plants and animals which were there have gone. A lot of new weeds have come in. and it's all actually very much out of balance. So I've spent the last 15 years watching this, and helping this piece of land to regrow. I've tried to manage it, tried to restore a healthy and balanced ecosystem on this block of land. So that's quite a slow process, just day to day. But from year to year, you see real changes. You see changes happening spontaneously all over the place, in different places, at different rates of change, and all independently around this block of land. Because the thing is that all the species of plants and animals that are there are different. They're different species. They respond to their circumstances in different ways and in different places, even just a few meters apart. Some areas of that land will do better than others. There are different conditions and different neighbours and different resources. So you see a complexity of how this land evolves and how it grows. You often see smaller ecosystems that they emerge in what's called microclimates, just small areas which are different. And health in some places, in a place like that, can improve faster than in other places. And it's actually these kind of startup communities within the ecosystem that need to be encouraged, because when they start growing faster, and they can feed other areas around them and contribute to the health of the overall ecosystem. But when the balance of the system is upset, as it is in the case of this land, a lot of work is needed, because new species can come in and they can be very invasive. They can exploit advantages that they have, like faster growth, lack of predators, things like that. They can be more vigorous and strong sometimes, these invasive weeds, and sometimes they try to take over to the detriment of others. So just one example, one of my weeds on my property is an English lantana. It's not natural in Australia. It grows very fast. It invades, it takes over. It attracts a particular native bird, a so-called bellbird, that's normal in the area, but this bird really likes the lantana, and it moves in en masse, and it drives out the other birds. And some of those other birds are insectivores, so they eat insects, and when those birds go, a whole lot of insects thrive and grow, and some of those insects are sap-sucking insects that attack trees, and the trees start to die. So this seems very nice at first when the bellbirds come in, because they've got quite a lovely song. But soon, when the trees start dying, it doesn't seem to be so nice. And what's worse about it is that when the trees die, the sunlight comes in, the lantana grows more, and it gets worse and worse. So there's a lesson in that when things are out of balance, sometimes they only get more and more out of balance without some help being brought in from the outside. And in fact, in an ecosystem, when sudden bad things happen, these are normally from outside effects. They're normally from things that happen and are imposed from elsewhere, like introduced species, like comets crashing down or rapid unnatural climate change. And in those cases, the ecosystem has a big challenge. It's where the health of the system matters a lot to its survival in the event of those changes. The size of the ecosystem is important, because the bigger the ecosystem is, the more likely it is to survive sort of local disasters that won't wipe out the entire system or species. Also, diversity of the ecosystem is very important to ensure that even if some species may actually be wiped out by external changes, that others are also spared and can continue the system. And so if the system itself can't cope with these things, it faces a sort of an environmental collapse where too many things die, and you have a very comprehensive and unpredictable change. And that's where, as you probably know, where humans can come in, and they can try to avoid or mitigate or repair damage that's been done. So that's what I'm trying to do, but what I have to be careful of in controlling this lantana weed is the problem of unintended consequences of what I might try to do. So, you know, I can try to pull this weed out by hand, but if I tried to do that, it would take really an army of people to work on it, and I can't quite afford that. If I use herbicides, then they could be very effective, but unknown other species will die because of the herbicide. I could take a tractor in and I can clear it out and cause all sorts of destruction. So I think the lesson that we've learnt as humans, and we continue to learn because we don't learn it very well, is that we have to be very careful in managing our ecosystems, especially with respect to these unintended consequences, which can be very negative. But these are sort of exceptions, because in nature, ecosystems aren't normally managed or governed at all by any outsider. They're just governed really by what naturally happens in the ecosystem according to natural principles. Those principles just apply spontaneously. They're like physical laws that apply throughout the system, don't need to be managed. You know, an ecosystem doesn't have sort of transactions. In an ecosystem, a member of the ecosystem doesn't need permission to eat or to breathe or to breed or to evolve or to mutate itself. These things just happen. The consequences are generally good. It's how an ecosystem works. So I guess you might be wondering by now why I'm talking about this in an internet governance forum. Well, the fact is, what I've found is that the bush and the internet ecosystem are not so different. And in fact, I think that analogy of the internet as an ecosystem is really powerful and actually very accurate, and that's why I wanted to speak to you about it here today. So what actually is an ecosystem in biology? It's a system of species that coexist together. They mutually interact with each other and sustain life and diversity through those interactions. Those ecosystems can be large ones or small ones, with more or less diversity in number of inhabitants and species. But I think it's actually well understood that in biological ecosystems, the healthy ones are larger and have more diversity and are sustained without taking resources from others. And with all of those features, as I said before, the ecosystem is much more stable and can be much more robust against the sorts of external threats that I mentioned earlier. In practice and in my experience, being kind of intimately involved with at least one natural ecosystem, the species are very important, but it's actually, the other thing is that it's very useful to recognize individuals, because it's actually if you think about it, it's the individuals of the species that really matter. Different species do better in general in different circumstances, but it's actually the individuals that succeed or fail personally, that respond personally to their own local environment. The individuals take the opportunities that are available, and the individuals solve problems and actually determine their destiny. It's the individuals and not the species that breeds, that mutates, that innovates actually through inheritance or through mutation. And it's the individuals that determine the future of the whole species. So that happens naturally and spontaneously according to natural principles. And again, it's a distributed, non-transactional process. There's no head office for a community of plants or animals, or for a species or an ecosystem. And ecosystems have actually done very, very well without needing that kind of supervision. But what there actually is in an ecosystem, whether it's intentional, passive, or active, is cooperation amongst all of the species, and more importantly, the individuals representing species of the ecosystem. And that's what's very important. So that also leads to why we like to talk about, and why it's powerful to talk about the internet as an ecosystem. Because Firstly, like an ecosystem, there are many different individual components of the internet. They can be grouped into a whole variety of categories and subcategories, just like species, genus, families of creatures in nature. And all of those different species of players in the internet ecosystem share features, some more than others, and they do interact. So in the internet there are users and service providers, there are businesses and business groups, there are infrastructures, sort of a geography of ISPs, IXPs, CDNs. There are standards. There are organisations that develop the standards at different levels in different places. IETF, W3C, ITU, IEEE, all of these members of the internet ecosystem. There are technical administrators like ICANN, like APNIC actually, like TWNIC for that matter, and others. There are governments within the internet ecosystem, and there are non-governmental organisations as well, like the members of civil society. So these are all what we call the stakeholders and the stakeholder communities that we talk about in internet governance. And with all of these stakeholders and stakeholder communities, the internet has grown over decades now in a very distributed way, the way a natural ecosystem does, with all of these components operating sort of in parallel, independently, but in cooperation with each other. And as I said, cooperation can be active or passive. I mean, cooperation just means that two things are operating together. They might actually ignore each other, and that's a kind of cooperation, but more importantly, they can somehow work together. And they can do it naturally and passively without intention, or as humans are inclined to do, they can do that cooperation actively and much more rapidly and productively. But on the internet, as in an ecosystem, as I've described, there's been no need historically to get anyone's permission to be a member of the internet or to be an internet stakeholder. Stakeholders simply are stakeholders, just like organisms in an ecosystem are members of the ecosystem. And internet stakeholders are normally, ideally at least, just as free as members of an ecosystem. They can join, as you know, I think all of you as internet users. You can publish, you can build your own services and applications on the internet. You can connect a device to the internet without asking permission. You can actually, if you have a good idea, you can propose a new standard on the internet. You can form startup companies that could grow to be giants of the internet, and you can do all of this without permission. There are sort of natural limitations and principles, but you as individuals are free to do whatever you want to do on the internet, to inhabit it, to innovate on it, to do good things, and also, as you know, to do bad things. You only need to follow a few natural principles, that is the standards of the internet and the practices of the internet, and then you can do whatever it is that you want. So on the internet, the species of the internet, the stakeholders of the internet, they do actually innovate. They breed, they replicate. They replicate actually by duplicating and following examples. And they also evolve. So a successful individual on the internet will take an example and not only duplicate it, but improve on it and can outperform others. It can, by doing that, it can lead to better generations of individuals as time goes on, an evolution of its species. And you can see that all around you in new generations of technologies, protocols and applications, businesses, business models, regulations, even regulations and policies on the internet, which may be designed by government stakeholders to do some local governance or management. Even those will be replicated and evolved around the world as time goes on. And the thing is that, as I've just mentioned, just like the global ecosystem, the internet is global as well. And that's very important because, as I said, the size of the ecosystem gives it more health. And at least in our world, nothing can be bigger in size than something that's global. And that's important in the natural ecosystem. I mean, sometimes something interesting about my bush block is that it's not isolated. The English lantana, the weed, after all, came in from elsewhere, and it's caused lots of problems. But I'm also actually lucky to have next to me a healthier neighbour in the form of a large national park, which is quite dense and diverse in the species that it has. So in spite of weeds being in some places, much of the growing health that I see in this location is coming naturally in from the neighbour. It's permeating. The success on the other side of the fence is growing and being replicated in my block. So I have species after species that come across, and each of them encourages the next one and encourages that healthy growth that I've spoken about. So on the internet, there's likewise a migration of species, a new application on the internet, which is like a species or an organism on the internet, can permeate very, very rapidly, as we all know, with some of the services that we use today that didn't exist just a few years ago. New technologies and products and business models also can spread without impediment. And as I said, new regulations and policies can also become permeated as best practices are duplicated around the world. So the internet, I think what I've tried to say here is that the internet does actually look like an ecosystem. It actually is, I'd say, an ecosystem. And I really think that if we all try to see it that way and talk about it in these terms, then we can better manage it as an ecosystem, better take better approaches to governing and managing it. But the question is, does an ecosystem need governance at all, and to what extent? Well, yes and no. So, as I said, a natural ecosystem often seems healthiest and happiest without outside influence, without catastrophic destruction, without humans interfering in many cases. But then again, the human species has our advance has a lot to do with the way that we govern ourselves and our shared ecosystem to maximise health and balance. So on the internet, for instance, one of the things that we might like to do as a governance measure is to ensure a level playing field. And that is to ensure that an invasive or overly dominant species on the internet doesn't take over to the detriment of everything else, just as in the analogy that I've described. So it is very necessary, but let's just realise again that in nature our so-called management has involved damaging ecosystems, in some cases to the extent that we ourselves are threatened, because we just have not been very good at predicting unintended consequences. I think these days on the internet we might be better to use the term of stewardship rather than governance. It's actually a synonym. In English, stewardship and governance mean very much the same things. And in English, certainly governance is not something just for governments. Governance is something that guides and controls and directs something. So hence the word stewardship is very useful. But it also describes when an ecosystem is managed in a more harmonious way, where it's nurtured not for special interests, but for the health of the ecosystem itself. That's actually how I see APNIC's role. Since our inception, APNIC has been committed to supporting internet development around the Asia Pacific. And these days, the APNIC development program involves training and technical assistance, fellowships and professional networks, supporting infrastructure like IXPs and root servers all over the Asia Pacific. And just to further support those activities, we're evolving ourselves. We've just this year launched the APNIC Foundation, which is a non-profit charitable foundation in Hong Kong, which is engaging in fundraising and projects to keep growing our support for internet development and internet sustainability of the ecosystem in the Asia Pacific. But what I'm advocating is that we think of internet governance as stewardship and more actively as internet cooperation, joint stewardship. So this is because in the ecosystem model, it's really not governance that matters, it's genuine cooperation that matters. The internet's got a long way to go and to grow in future. We can't tell at all what the internet's going to look like in 10 years' time. But we can be sure that with growth and change, there's going to be many, many challenges in future. And it's really important that we're prepared to deal with those challenges. And that's really why we're here, I think, in the IGF movement, in these meetings. So I do think we can take important lessons from the ecosystem model. I hope that the Taiwan IGF agrees with me on that. And I suggest that we think about a few things. Like in nature, like in a natural ecosystem, the internet is a community of stakeholders. We inhabit a geography that we actually build ourselves. There are local geographies and local communities that form local ecosystems like this one here in Taiwan. So a local ecosystem is mostly self-governing through natural cooperation, but it's not actually self-sustaining. So of course it can. The internet ecosystem of Taiwan can and should be able to operate while it's isolated, in the event that it's isolated, but not for long, or it's going to diverge from the rest of the world and stop being part of a global network. So the local ecosystem must interact, it must cooperate with other ecosystems, with its immediate neighbours, and thanks to communications, to neighbours that are far away. The ecosystems, these ecosystems at a local level must learn to cooperate with each other. And what we begin to see actually is this layered approach that we talk about in the internet, where you have interconnection of the internet itself, you have exchange of applications and data over the internet, you have interconnection of legal and policy frameworks and internet governance systems. So as I said, this TWIGF is just part of a global IGF movement. So that's another global part of the ecosystem at another layer. So there can be positive and negative influences of cooperation. External factors affect natural balance and can require deliberate intervention to manage those factors. But hopefully that's rare, because any kind of deliberate governance intervention has consequences and can have unintended and negative consequences. As the doctors say, we need to take care to do no harm in our efforts to do good things. But the internet itself, the geography that we inhabit, does provide the key. Providing we humans can continue to connect and solve our own problems, natural cooperation will continue to emerge. And internet cooperation then becomes the key to the health and success of the internet. So that, I hope, is a useful beginning to your deliberations here today. And thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.